So, hello, everybody. If other people join, I'll be adding them as they arrive. But welcome to the Pure Soul for this month of April. I hope everybody had a good Easter. Mine was very calm. Oh my God, it's sunny out now.
I
It
know.
was just in a huge downpour, and now it's like super sunny, and it was like a monsoon passed through here. It was crazy. It got real dark, and now it's real bright, and hopefully that's a good thing. Okay, so welcome to the Pure Soul. Um, I thought, I don't know if everybody got a chance to watch the video, but one of the things that I thought would be a fun thing to do for everybody is to think about if you could go back and give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be? And what do you think your future self advice would be to you? And so, if anybody, and if you didn't watch the video and you're just now hearing that exercise, think about that while somebody else goes. But if anybody did that or came up with that, please share. Who would like to go first? Oh, somebody has to go first.
All right. You want to go, Britt?
Okay.
All right.
No, you go, Pam.
All right. So, what I would tell my younger self is that we all do the best we can and don't judge anyone because we're all doing just the best we can and that it's okay. And then my older self would actually tell me now, stop worrying, it'll be okay. Like I worry a lot about growing older, being alone, being by myself.
Mhm.
So I would have my older self tell me, stop worrying about it, it'll be fine. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody, did you find any um, healing or reflection or a modification in yourself when you thought of that? Because when I ask myself, like, what would I tell my younger self? I would tell my younger self, somebody always catches you. Like, you're always caught. Like,
mm,
I never fall. Like, something always happens. I always find a way, and it's not even me who finds a way. It's just the universe finds a way for me, and that like I should be totally fine with that. So I would tell myself to not freak out so much and just like trust that it'll be fine. That's what I would tell my younger self. But when I thought of that, it really brought me to different experiences in my life that I reflected on. And it actually, in that reflection, I felt fine about the position I'm in currently.
mm,
And I was having a hard time with that. So when I did the exercise for myself, it brought peace to something that I'm experiencing now, you see?
mhm.
And so that was really beneficial for me. Um, when I asked my older self what she would tell me, she won't tell me. And I've talked to my older self before, and I ask her stuff. So I'm still waiting for that answer because I did not get that. I did not get that far. Like I have reflected on some of the things that I know my future self has shared with me, but when I asked for like what advice, literally I nothing came to me, nothing rose in me, so I haven't gotten to that part yet. But did it do anything like that for you?
So the one going, me telling my younger self that we all do the best we can. I think there were many times that I would judge people
Mhm,
and how dare I, because we're all just doing the best we can. So I did reflect on that, right?
mhm,
And then it kind of made me sad because I was like, oh shit, we all really just do the best we can, including myself, right?
mhm,
And we all don't have the same path, or we don't have the same journey, any of that kind of stuff. And then when I thought about my future self telling me, it it kind of was like, oh, I gotta stop this. This is just a waste of time worrying about it. Right. And if I'm
mhm,
gonna worry about it, if that's the case, then just put a plan together. Right. So I actually thought
mhm.
about, okay, what will I do? When I get to a certain point, I'll look for like an assisted living place or something, even though Maddie said she'll take me in. But you know what I mean? Like look for a
Mhm.
place where I could live, where I have my own apartment or something. You know?
Right.
So to stop just worrying about it. Like I worry about, will I have enough money to retire? Those kinds of things. So
Mhm. Very good.
Yeah, so
Thank
it
you.
did, it did, you know, it did hit me.
Perfect. Thank you. Brittany, you would like to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that you asked Pam to reflect on the moment when she asked herself the question, because I also had a moment of peace when I asked myself the question of like, what would I tell my younger self and what would my older self tell me? So I would tell my younger self, okay, so when I was younger, I had this idea of who I would become, right? I had this picture in my brain of like the car that I would drive, the house that I would live in. And I had this idea, and I always thought, like, I can't wait to become that person. And I thought I had to do all these special things to become that person. Well, this past weekend, Amanda and I went to the beach with the dog, and we were taking selfies. And I was looking at one of the selfies later that day, and I go, oh, that's her. That's her. That's who I've been waiting to become, the girl in the picture, and how I felt in that moment. So I would go back and tell myself, you don't have to do anything special. Just wait. Just keep going. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to accomplish anything big. You don't have to do it right. You just got to keep going and you'll become her. And then when I asked my older self, what would you come back and tell me? She just pointed back and she just said, you already know. So that brought me like a lot of peace.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
I got some.
Jackie. Go ahead, Jackie. But you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I was going to say that Haley could go. I was going to go, but then Britt made me weepy. So
Go ahead.
for some reason, when I go for the younger self advice I would give, like my brain was kind of like, just wait. She's going to ask a second part and we'll skip to it. So like I did the advice that my older self would give me first. And that was very similar to everyone else. And it really was just be quiet and sit down and don't do anything. Just wait. Don't do anything. Just wait. It'll be fine. Stop spinning your wheels. And then I kind of realized I think I would give same thing. I'm picturing that I would give that same advice to my younger self, that there's so much time that gets wasted on like trying to control things that you can't control. So
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? Matt, you were gonna go?
Yeah, I got something to add. If I could go back and tell my younger self, my 6-year-old self to now 36-year-old self, I would say it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Stay strong and just remember, God don't like ugly. You do good. And if my older self, long time from now, comes and talks to me right now, he'd probably say, keep going. You're right on the path. And just remember, life is one big motorcycle ride. Just keep going.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. So did you find, like, when you would give that advice to your younger self, that there was like healing for the younger self that experienced that?
Healing and a little bit of guidance. Yeah, it's just words to my younger self, essentially, to just stay strong and you'll do fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Haley, I love your hair.
Oh, it's a mess right now, but thank you.
Yeah, but I really like it. It's cute cut.
It looks so cool, Haley.
Thank you. I'm gonna dye it with put blonde in it. So well, next time we'll see that. So after watching the video, when I sat with that for a while, what I would tell my younger self was don't worry. I spent so much of my life worrying what other people thought, worrying how I came across, honestly, just worrying about everything, like the things that just did not matter. And then when I thought about having my future self come, very similarly, I didn't get an answer. And I think when I sat with it, I said, why am I not getting an answer? And that answer to that was, I have so much trust and faith that I don't need anything from the future. I don't need an answer because I know I'm being guided into something bigger, that I have so much faith that I don't need anything from my future self to tell me. I have that trust in myself that this present moment will guide me into the future self that I need to be.
Well, maybe you just helped me because I literally did not get anything back. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, I always listen to her anyway. Like, I do what my spirit says. And that's kind of how I responded. Well, I always listen to her anyway. So I don't argue with myself a lot about the guidance that my soul prompts me to do or the actions that I take. Like, I feel like I listen. So maybe that makes sense to me now, that I didn't really have anything from my future self to tell me. Like, because I didn't get nothing back. It was just quiet.
Yeah, the same. I when I asked him, like, really, like, now you're going to be quiet, like your whole life you can't shut up, and this is the moment you're going to be silent.
Yeah, but maybe that's because you listen.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I really do try to do what my soul says to do.
Yeah.
So
I think there was nothing that I needed to hear, because no matter what kind of comes in on a daily basis and a yearly basis, I don't get caught up in that. I've just been trying to let go. Like, whatever comes in is what I'll deal with and manage, and the choices I have to listen in that present moment.
awesome. Yes. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Trisha. Oh, go
Who's
ahead.
iPhone 4?
I don't know.
Sorry, that's
Hello,
me.
iPhone 4.
Oh.
Casey.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's Casey. Sorry, I don't know why it says iPhone 4. Really.
Well, welcome. We are talking about everybody is talking about what advice would you give your younger self if you could do that, and what advice do you think your older self would give to you? So that's you could think about that kind of and mull it over for a moment. But Trisha, would you like to say? Oh, you're muted. Oh, there. Hello. No, you're muted. Still. It says you're not muted.
No, but it's probably that the microphone isn't set. It may have gotten confused with the little arrow next to the little mic on the bottom. If you click the arrow under microphone, you can just pick the basic one, maybe, if that's what it is.
Oh no. Well, while you are trying to figure that out, how about Linda? What would you tell your younger self, and what do you think your future self would tell you?
I didn't watch the video, so I'll confess to that.
That's okay.
I don't have any profound moments.
That was just what was the video about this month?
I don't know because I didn't watch it.
I did. Well, I did it.
I did watch it.
so-
What is it?
It
Oh,
was about the 6 principles of Jesus and bringing Jesus
Oh yeah,
into your thing. Yeah.
Yes,
And then the tarot
yes.
was the 9 of Wands.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yes. So yeah, I watched this. I listened to this talk, and it like blew me away. So that's what I actually shared was the 6 principles, characteristics that are Christ-like. So it was very interesting. I hope you enjoy it if you watch it. So, but that wasn't part of the video. That was just the exercise that I suggested for our
Oh, okay.
Zoom today, because I thought it was an interesting topic. So what would you tell your younger self, and what do you think your older self would tell to you?
Well, I think it would be the same. Be patient. Be patient for what? I don't know. And
Awesome.
I like what Pam said about everybody's doing the best job they can. Still trying to go with that.
Awesome. Thank you. Trisha, does it work now? No. Bummer. Okay, Christine, would you like to?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm so distracting. I'm making HelloFresh.
Oh, no, you're not distracting me at all.
I think my younger self would say to enjoy. Is it getting cut off?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I know my service isn't very clear. It keeps freezing. Well, younger self says to have fun, feel good in your own skin, just have fun, more fun. And older self, chill out, relax more. Stop
Awesome.
multitasking all the time, like making dinner when you're on a call.
That's okay. I multitask all the time. It works. If it can work for you, it's good. A lot of people function better when they have to multitask. It's
Yeah,
easier for me to do like 10 different things than it is to just stay focused on one thing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So, it's good for me. So thank you. How about you, Casey? What would you tell your younger self and what would your older self tell you?
Well, when my mom said patient, I was like, that was mine. That was what I was gonna say. So more like
Sorry.
patient to figure out who you are first, and what you want, because everything changes and grows. And so I was definitely unaware of that when I was younger.
That's
And
good
then
advice. Like that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. That hits me in my chest.
Yeah.
It really does. And like I feel it, like I felt it right there. So okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And then, so that's what I would tell my younger self. And what was the other one? The younger
What
would
would
tell
your
the older?
what would your older self tell you?
Oh, ooh, everything happens for a reason. You're where you're meant to be, I hope.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for sharing. Trisha, did you get it working? No. That's terrible. I'm sorry. Where's Matt? Is he not with you? Oh, you can't even answer me. Okay, so thanks everybody for sharing. I do.
Nikki, hold on. I think mom can speak through me, through my laptop.
Oh, okay. Cool.
One second. Okay.
I don't see her there. Now, can you hear me?
Yes,
No.
I can hear you
Now?
now. Yes.
I don't know what's wrong with the other computer. What I would tell my younger self, you're not alone. You're not alone. It's going to be okay. You're not really abandoned. You have others in your life besides your family. There's others in your life that will support you. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be okay.
Yeah, sometimes God chooses your family, even if your DNA doesn't match. I agree.
I swear I'm adopted, so okay.
Yeah, that's really a good thing. I should have thought of that to tell my younger self. I'm gonna go tell my younger self that. So, we could borrow each other's advice for our younger self, and I'm gonna borrow your advice to your younger self to my younger self. I think that's a great piece of advice to tell my younger self. Time is not real in the soul. It's only real in our mortality in our bodies. So when we tell our younger self something, It's a soul acknowledgement, which is not confined by time. So you are actually at that precise moment, you are telling your younger self that your younger self now has that advice to move forward with, you see? So, you know, if you think back to times when you were younger, that you just knew something, but you didn't know how you knew it. And when you reacted in a particular way, you surprised yourself. But you would totally expect yourself to react this way. What if that's like right now? What if we're like in a time travel experience where this current moment that we are giving this advice at this precise instant, because there's no time, our younger self already has that information because they already have the information. So when we go back and we do like that one video I made that was the add-on video where you add on, you know, your older self into that trauma moment so that you can deflect that child in you to look at your adult self who is fully capable of solving the situation. You are actually doing that, you see? Because if there's no time, it's all happening now. Yes,
I
Brittany.
have something. Is
Yes.
that our spirit communicating with us?
Yes.
Like when you say listen to yourself and your spirit will tell you what to do next. Is our spirit, I don't know, I'm having an existential crisis right now. Is our spirit just us from the future telling us what to do in that moment?
Your spirit knows something you don't in mortality confined by time yet know, but they know. So if they say do your laundry, I'm doing it. If they say turn left, I'm going to turn left. When I don't listen, I'm like, ah. So I made a deal with my spirit. I said, tell me 2 times. Like if you want me to take Randall Road, tell me when I'm doing my hair and again when I get in the car. Otherwise, I'm taking Square Barn. Muscle memory. Like you got to tell me twice or I won't even pick up on it. You could do stuff like that because it's all right now. And your soul will do that. Your soul is always. But your body makes you think it's a sequential process when it's not a sequential process.
There's actually a philosophical belief, and I forget what it's called, but it's that the past, present, and future are all like linear, are all happening at the same time. So now Britt has me thinking, that's my soul. But it is that's really, really cool. And also I meant to tell you earlier, Pam, that you can come live with me also, even though you've never met me. I've got space and I'm lonely. We'll have a great time.
Thank you. Watch what you ask for, or you offer up.
Awesome. So I think it is, and that is your soul. Your soul is eternal. So it has the knowledge of all parts of you that you don't have. Right? Because when we think about the situations in our life that are happening, we're processing them actually from a collective consciousness that we're trying to stuff through our brain. And that's why we can never feel like we're thinking clearly. We don't see the whole picture. Yeah.
So what was your future?
Oh, yes. And what was your future self?
She's like, Pamela, shut up.
I didn't get like an answer for that. I don't feel like, even if I'm trying hard to like communicate with future telling me now, I'm not getting anything. I feel very settled. Does that make sense? Like there's nothing
Yes.
I feel settled. I'm okay. Things are okay. I'm okay to be by myself. I'm okay doing my own thing. I'm not alone. I was not abandoned. I'm okay. And going forward, I just feel okay. I've had, I think, enough in my life to realize I'm here for a reason. And I think it's my kids, my grandkids, helping others. And I'm okay with it. That's it. I don't get anything from my future telling me, well, hey, you better go do this. Or hey, I don't get any. I feel settled.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Tempe too.
Yeah, you know how, like, I remember different experiences, and maybe you have some of these in your life, or if you reflect on it or think about it, but I had an experience in my life where I was about 6 years old and I said something that a 6-year-old wouldn't say, and I realize now that my current self actually took dominance in my little girl self and said those words. So, since we're eternal, there's different parts of our experience that will be more dominant in a particular experience. Like, take me to Disneyland or Disney World, and I feel like a kid. Like, this part of me comes out, when I'm sad and I want to be like, feel better. My 5-year-old self loves cheeseburger Happy Meals, and I get a taste for it. But I don't eat that, but I would get a taste for it. So there's things in our adult life that our child self wants in the adult experience, and we do those things sometimes. So if you think of an experience like, oh, you all of a sudden have a taste for this baked macaroni and cheese that your grandma used to make when you were like 6, but you haven't had it in 30 years, and oh my God, you just all of a sudden have this taste for that experience. And it brings you back to your childhood. What's actually happening is that your child self is taking a dominant experience in your current environment and your current self. And so you feel that childhood nature. And likewise, there are times when you were a child that maybe the child self had a hard time coping with something. So the older self takes dominance in that younger self. And you'll hear a lot of parents or people say, oh my God, out of the mouth of babes, right? Out of the mouth of babes, which just means that their older self is currently the one communicating. If you ask a child, like, how old are you really? They'll be like 12, 7. At that moment, they are what is most dominant in them. So that's how we live our experience. And really, if you think about, can you right now think of any experiences where that actually happened to you, where you're like, oh my God, that was my older self, like totally helping me out. Or that was my little girl self that came to be part of the current experience. Anything like that happen with anybody before? Britt?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you invite a self from a different time to help you with something? So, like, my younger self was like kind of a badass, like my early 20 self. She was not afraid of anything. She did a lot of stupid shit. If I'm about to do something stupid, can I invite her to like come give me the confidence to do that thing? Like, how does that work? So, like, because you're talking about these times when it happened out of nowhere, like, oh, that was unexpected, or that, how can you be intentional in bringing those other parts of yourself from different timelines into your present moment?
Well, you have to start by listening to your spirit all the time, right? Like, so you have to have developed this relationship with your soul, where if you are laying on the couch and she tells you to do the laundry, just do it, because it's just developing this communication. Because it's a lot easier to shift in it's easier for your soul to shift, because if you know your soul and the way it's communicating with you now, you'll recognize a shift when your 5-year-old self visits. feel it, you'll know it. And so that's, I would say, would be the first step. But, you know, after my spiritual awakening, I started to see people's truth in a way that I knew that whatever they were experiencing in my presence was really truly more about the way their soul and body communicated with one another. So what that awakening experience did is it brought me into a conscious awareness of the friendship between my body and my soul. When I recognized that, it was near to impossible for me to see people as just one, because I was seeing their soul and their body relationship, what I had then had aligned within me. So sometimes I'm really in two relationships with somebody. I'm in a relationship with their soul, and I'm in a relationship with their human self. It's best for me if the human listens to the spirit, because then it's one relationship. Otherwise, it's two relationships. And I don't know which one sometimes I'm supposed to participate in. Which one does my friend expect of me at this moment? Right. And so that comes to be a challenge when people have a lot of internal battle or struggle, because what I try to do is make you friends with yourself. If you're friends with yourself, I know your life will be fine. Because literally, if you are friends with yourself, everything will always work out fine, like 100%. And if you can believe that, then you don't have any questions. You just know. So, yep, I forgot what my next train of thought was there. But yes, so in my awakening original point, because I started to see that internal struggle, my approach to people became very different. It wasn't as aggressive. I wasn't as defensive. There was no reason for me to be defensive. I wasn't trying to protect myself. I didn't have a dependency on you anymore. Like there was no desperation in me. And having my soul as my best friend really allowed that to be true. So because I see your struggle, I am your doormat. You can do whatever you want to me. You can say whatever you want to me. You can treat me in any way that you want, and I will still show up for you, because I know that what you're doing is actually more about your battle with your own soul. It's not with me, you see. And so there are times that in my current moment, I still will get to a point where like I'm feeling that like that void in me or that emptiness in me. I'm starting to feel that. And so at that moment, I'm like, okay, I need my 15-year-old self, because she's a bitch and she doesn't give a fuck and she doesn't care who likes her and who doesn't like her. And so I need her. And I will literally I'll literally invite her to join, to be a dominant presence, and I love that about my soul, because she can handle a lot, because she didn't have the awareness that I have. So she's perfect to invite. So yes, you can invite parts of yourself to take dominance or to help you in reflection. Let's say you have a journal entry that you're writing and it's like, reflect on a time. Well, invite that part of yourself to tell you all about it, like to show you, to bring you there, to bring those feelings back, And I know that, and I've heard this before, that there's when they're let's say somebody's in a trauma or they're in a crime or something. And so they try to create an experience where maybe the smell triggers a memory, and then they're in that moment again. So there's always a way to shift yourself into the perspective that you need within yourself, because you have everything you need, because you've already done it. You've already done it.
Do you think that's why when the question of the future coming back, the reason why there was no answer is because your soul is just in the present? like you're in the present at all times. So what, you don't need to shift in between different, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I wouldn't have, yes, I know exactly what you're saying, and it makes 100% sense to me, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to express it. So thank you for saying that, because yes, you are right. Your soul is always in the present because there is no past, present, and future.
Yeah, that's why there was no response, but you can reflect back, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because you have the working conscious knowledge of, right, of the past. So it's easier to
Yes.
have the reflection of the past, but you're always necessarily in the present. So when you think back to the past, there's no emotional tie or trauma or wound still. You recognize it from like a different level. Like, what was the lesson?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if there's
Very
like
much.
5 core wounds, everyone's wounds are like out right now. That's why everyone's like offended, right? You touch it and you're like, you offended me, right? This bothers me. So I think if you're in the present, it doesn't have the connection it used to have, maybe.
Oh, I agree with that.
Oh
I
yeah,
agree with that
because you're like
it,
giving yourself the perspective from all of the different places.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
no, yeah, go ahead, keep talking. That's awesome. Please keep going.
Yeah, so like the idea is to be fully tapped in, right? And we've talked about this on a bunch of other sessions before. Like the idea is to be in perfect alignment and in perfect um oneness with self. But there's always a point, unless you're like Marissa, there's always a point where you didn't have that, where you like didn't like where the alignment occurred to you, or like your awakening moment. And sometimes you go back out and you come back in. So those times
You
you
do
have
come back
separate,
out.
right?
You
So you
do
have
come back
separate
out and you do
consciousness.
go back in. Mhm.
Yeah. So you have your separate consciousness of that moment. But if you are working on a practice of staying totally aligned all the time, and for some people that's impossible not to do. So, like Haley, Mom, Marissa, you can only exist that way, right? You're only in perfect alignment. So you're not going to get an answer because there's no separation between your consciousness and your spirit, right? Am I explaining it correctly?
You are, because I'm the one that has that separation and I come back and forth, unlike them. So you're on. I totally agree with you, Britt.
You know what though? That really makes me think, Britt, and hold that thought because I want you to keep going. But when you say that, oh crap, I hope it didn't leave my mind. Yep.
But you're right, Britt. Keep going with it.
I remember if I don't do my best to stay in alignment, I suffer and I struggle and I am in fear and I am sick to my stomach and I am worried and I can't sleep and I become a product of my state of being, which is just abandoned. And if I sit there too long, it's not good. So I try to listen to my spirit because I would rather be in that space than in a space of I'm freaking out, I'm fearful. And I dipped into that human space the last few weeks, and I really had to call attention to myself and be like, okay, like you have the answer. Sit down, pray, settle yourself. The answer is going to come, and the answer came. And so, and it was fine, and it was always fine, and it was fine before I knew why or how it would be fine. It might not be fine next year. I'll talk to Trisha about that later. But in any case, the answer was there. And so that's what, yeah. So I thank you for saying that because that's a huge part of it for me. So go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you. But that's why I try to stay in it. So I don't have to have that icky feeling about my day or my life.
So think of this, Britt, to help explaining it, is if you can be on one end of the spectrum of full alignment, that means you have the duality to go to the full other extreme inside. So it depends on how aligned you are, because if I'm here and completely aligned, everything is good. I've also swung to the complete other side Now, does my capacity to move out of it very quickly? Like, yeah, but I've been stuck in it. So the spectrum that you have is like the widest one. So it's like really, really bad or like amazing in full alignment and everything makes sense.
And then I guess the muscle that you're working as you're going through your awakening, as you're working on being in alignment, that's just strengthening how much faster you get back to the light side of the spectrum, right? So like how much time are you spending, because it's inevitable that we're going to swing out, right? So how fast can you get back? How quickly can you get through your conditioning, your external dehumanization, your internal dehumanization? How quickly can you get back to that place of alignment?
So
it's like a moment in time.
Yeah, it's moment in
so
time.
quick.
Yeah.
Like an example would be a couple days ago, one of my sons had asked me to like watch something earlier in the day and I was like, sure. So when I got down to it and I was done with work, he asked and I was like, hey, no, it doesn't work. Like, I'm really tired. Can we look tomorrow? And I could see that his rejection wound was opened. And then my trigger was I disappointed somebody. And within that moment, instead of reacting back and being like, I'm triggered and you're triggered, and we're like going back and forth, I was like, what I'm doing is I won't be able to give you the authentic experience that you deserve with this. I know you spent a lot of time, but I can't give it to you. And that's what this is just meaning. And then it diffused his rejection. Like I could catch it in the moment that it didn't become something deeper.
Yes. And I think that's what spiritual awakening has given me as I've been like really working on it over the last couple of months. It's given me more time, because it feels like when something would happen, I would react, I wouldn't respond. And I feel like if the goal, this just kind of goes back to what you said when we started, Mom, time isn't real, right? Time doesn't exist. It's a construct of our human brain. And if we can exist in a space of spirit where time like literally doesn't exist and everything is happening that happened, that is happening, that will happen all right now in this moment, then you can manipulate that. You can stretch out the time that it takes so that you can respond in a way, like Haley said, with the most compassionate version of yourself. And in that moment, you had the time to be like, hey, I know what you're looking for. I can't give it to you. You have the time to respond. Whereas if you're not in alignment, it sets a timer. It's like you have less time. And then you react quicker, and you react from a place that's of your conditioning, of your hurt spot, of your wounds. And you don't have that time to like react in the way that's the best for everybody, and you don't get to diffuse the situation. You escalate the situation, right? Am I making sense?
No,
I
because
don't
you're
know. I'm just
pressured by
100,
time.
100%. You are making sense.
Because you're pressured by it, right?
Yeah.
You're pressured, whereas when you are in alignment, there is no time.
Yeah. So you don't have the constraint. It's like it doesn't exist. So you're like, oh, am I thinking too long? No, I'm fine. I responded enough time. Like I'm trying to think of if this has happened to me recently, like the same situation where I thought, oh, I remember what it was. I was with someone and they made a comment about my ethnicity, and it was an insensitive comment. And normally when this person says something that's kind of inflammatory, I'll react right away and I'll turn into a bitch and I'll shut down, and then I'll have a information about it later, and I'll be mean later. And in this moment, I was able to slow the time down and without missing a beat, respond in a way that diffused the situation. And in that time, it was like she offered me this terrible reflection and I didn't take it. I was like, oh, that doesn't belong to me. Thank you, though. Thank you. That's not mine. But I was in alignment that when I was in this experience. And so I had so much time to be like, oh, that's not about me. That's about you. I'm not going to take that. Thank you so much. Goodbye. And I was able to go the opposite direction and not do what I normally would do, which is in the moment, it happens so fast and I fly off the handle and I say something rude. and then it throws everything off and I escalate the situation. And instead it was like time stopped. It was like the Matrix. Like I had all the time in the world to react, and I saw the bullet coming and I was like, no, not for me. Like,
But that,
it was amazing.
and that is exactly, do you remember that one time that somebody was gonna punch me in the face, but I
And
saw
you-
it coming too slow and I went back and I did like this back bend thing and grabbed the railing and turned around. And I know that it was really, really fast, but for me, it was so slow. And I was like, what the heck? And that's the day I was like, oh, time is not real, because I know this person was going fast. And I was just like, boom, boom. Because in my vision, it was just moving very, very slow. And when I realized that, I started to scare the crap out of my kids, calling it a moment in time. They would come around the corner and I'd be like, boo. And when you do that to somebody, anybody, it's a moment where your soul and your body break apart, right? Because your soul is always going to try to protect you from trauma. So there's a split that happens when you startle somebody. So I started to startle the kids. And initially when I started, like the first time I did it to Brittany, she was up here and I scared her by the counter, and her spirit jumped out of her body so fast, was back, like thrown back down the stairs, slammed up against the wall by the fireplace, and like stayed there for a minute. And the whole time that her spirit was downstairs, she was humanly up here hitting me, jumping, mom, mom, mom. So once she gets out this, initial human response, then her spirit comes up the stairs and like comes back into her body, and then she's calm. And I'm like, whoa, that is way too long. Because in that time frame, you could get jumped, you could get stolen, you could get abducted. You could be in a situation where you have to make a quick decision. And if you're startled and your soul, there's a jolt that sends you out of yourself, then you don't have that valuable, like you don't have that time to react. So I did it for years. And now I tested Marissa the other day. We were just talking and I go, whoop, like that. And she goes, boom, boom. So her soul just popped out and popped right back in. And she's like, so for one split second, like her soul popped out. But this ability gives you this time, it's moment in time, and it just stops and everything is slower. And those are the moments that you wish you had when you look back at a situation and you're like, oh my God, I wish I would have thought of that. Like I totally could have done that. Why didn't I think of that? And that's because the separation between the body and soul doesn't allow for that. But if you, like you said, Brittany, your normal reaction would be this. And now it like slowed down. Like she said it came in and you like processed it, kicked it out, changed the situation, and you reacted to more the flow of energy of your soul than you did your conditioning in humanity that makes you feel inferior to another person or less than. So you didn't have to feel the need to prove yourself, to have that validation. That's already inner validated, you're aligned, therefore it doesn't come into your system. You don't have a dependency on that. And so that's what we kind of try to achieve. So you're right. It's very, when you're aligned, you have time enough to think before you react. But if you're not aligned, meaning that the traumas in your life are determining how you live your life, then you don't have time, because your trigger is going to be your trauma from before. So anything that smells like, looks like, feels like, might be that kind of trauma, you're right away there. So you're automatically, barrier up and trying to defend yourself against that, when in all actuality, it has nothing to do with you. It's about them, and it's about their inner trauma that happens like that. That makes sense. That's awesome. Thank you so much for getting that going, Haley and Brittany. But go ahead, Haley. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you can say what you were saying. Sorry.
Oh, was I? The only thing I was gonna say is I like to say in therapy sometimes like an unhealed person will take offense to everything somebody says or something does. And I think like the true kind of like understanding of a healed person is that the actions and words of someone else has nothing to do with you, but rather everything to do with the inner world of that person. And the emotions that we experience we're just the medium, the vessel for that emotion, right? Emotion, energy, form of a feeling needs to pass through, and it just gets stuck in us. So that's just the space, right, of showing the healing part, that's like the progression, right? That I no longer take offense because I realize everything you say is a projection of your reality.
It's kind of like if you think about the way people translate information, you and I could be in the same situation, but the way that I translate that information inside of me and the way you translate that information inside of you is going to be different. So we can have one experience, but we're bringing it in through our own like bucket of humanity or our own filter, right? So if my filter says abandonment and your filter says validation, then if I'm taking one situation, I'm passing it through abandonment. That's my filter. What is your filter? What are you passing it through? If I'm going to understand you, I got to know a little bit more about your filter. You got to know a little bit more about my filter, but you're not responsible to fix my filter or to unclog my filter. And I am not responsible to unclog your filter. If I love you and I know that your filter is getting clogged up, I can help you. But it's not my responsibility to clean it out for you. I can only help you. So that's where, when we don't unclog our own filter, that's where our dependency for the outside world comes in. Because now, if we're not going to do it, we're going to depend on all the people around us to satisfy, fulfill, validate, and fix that process to, plug it up or unclog it or whatever it is, so that things can flow. And so that's where we get into difficult times in our relationships, because we're not doing it for ourselves. And that can be in all three areas of your Trinity. It can be emotionally, it can be analytically, it can be, physically. So if I'm going through an experience that I can analytically, I can fix that in my brain. I can do it emotionally. Sometimes we're missing one of the components. I have faith in my heart that everything is going to be okay. I have literal analytical knowledge and proof that I know it's going to be okay. But something's happening to my physical self. And what do I do to make it okay? So I'm good in my analytical self. I'm good in my emotional self, but the root energy or the physical energy, that's not happening. So then now I know that's my plan. Okay, well, if I know I'm going to be fine, what do I have to contribute in order to make that fine? What is within my capability to do to make that fine? And then you've addressed all three parts of yourself, because you have to, for every situation. You have to address all three parts of yourself. You need a plan for every single one of them, because then you can ensure that your filter is clean, so that when people's information comes through you, it's not clogged up by your abandonment issue, your validation issue, or whatever your life prompted it to be. Right.
No, it's really similar. Like Joe Dispenza, I think you would really like his books, Britt. He talks about if we wait for anything like outside of us to make us healthy, to make us wealthy, to make us happy, we will be back in the unconscious program and just be the victim to our environment. So that's why every little thing, like Starbucks screwed up my drink, this person cut me off, this and that, it's like you are just a victim to the stimuli outside of yourself.
You're totally right. You're totally right. And I felt myself kind of slipping into that like unconscious programming this week, because I feel like once the little shit starts to bug me, that's when I know I'm slipping. that's when I know I'm like, oh, something's off. The check engine light is on, because normally that wouldn't bother me, and it's bothering me today. Like my Apple Watch wouldn't sync, and it's not been syncing for weeks. Did I give a shit? No, I gave a shit yesterday, and I almost cried about it. And then I was like, what is going on, girl? You need a moment. You need to like reset for a moment. And once I did, then I was like, oh, I'll just reset the watch. Duh. Like it just, then the easiest shit becomes easy shit again, and not stuff that's completely clogging you up, because I took a minute and I unclogged my filter.
Right. And if you want to learn more about your filter, I teach a workshop called State of Being, which is from Alma for the beginning, and that really covers your state of being. So I know Matt took it, Haley took it, Linda took it, Trisha took it, Jackie, I don't know if you took it, but I do teach this workshop, and it really does. I think we've talked about your state of being. And if you haven't taken the workshop and you've met with me, I'm sure we've talked about your state of being. But that is your filter. That's your main filter. And then you've got a lot of other little filters. And once you get real good at your state of being, you'll recognize your own filters. For like after my awakening for like 7 years, I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that was a thing. It totally makes sense about my life. So once you start the process of becoming friends with your spirit, you're gonna be best friends, and she's gonna tell you everything, and you're gonna be like, whoa, totally true about myself. So you'll see it just gets better and better and better, and then you don't have no questions, and it's good. Good.
Like that lady from The Chosen. This man told me everything about my life.
Exactly. Everything
And
about my
everyone's
life.
like, we know, you told us.
Yeah, it is though, but that's true. So does anybody have any comments or anything that they would like to share about the topic that we're talking about, or about anything else?
I was going to ask Haley, what was the name of that author you were mentioning? Can you IM that to me so I can
Joe Dispenza.
Google? Okay. Joe Dispenza. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. He's good. I've listened to a couple of his things. He does a lot of the Hopa Ono Ono Ono. He talks about that. That's one of the things he speaks about quite a bit.
Yeah, I really like, I think one of the books is like, I Am the Placebo, Breaking the Habit of Being You. He has a couple like meditations I've been listening to the last 2 months, like every night. And I don't know what happens, but like in these 2 months, there's been a huge shift and change, because it's all the subconscious programming. And you're breaking down literally that habit of being you. So I'm like, do it in my sleep, just start working.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Well, everyone, I thank you so much for coming to the Pure Soul today. I think we're at 7, yeah. Thank you for coming. And next time, maybe we could talk about, if everybody wants to watch the video from the month of April, it is really good things to think about, and just ways that we can hold ourselves accountable for having joy in our life. And if you mirror those characteristics of Christ, you will have joy in your life. Like you can't not. It's impossible to not feel that when you watch the video. You'll see. And then try it. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.